Well, this is the axle off the Multipower tractor, off the Multipower 135, and as you can see it didn't have the studs coming up through here, it had bolts, being a later model tractor with the straight front axle, not the bent front axle. So look, what we've done so far, and look, you can go across to the 6-speed video, there'll be a similar video on that to do these rear axles. I centre popped, oh look, about a third of the way in from the edge here, and then I run a drill down, right down as far as it would go. So the tip of the drill just touched the back of the bearing. So you've seen all that before, so now we'll try and split this collar. And there we go, that's enough to loosen it off and get it off. I've just finished doing the video on the 6-speed and it was welded on. What a bugger of a thing. So there you go. That's the collar. That's where I drilled down through. You can just feel a little tit down there. It didn't actually go right through, and there's no mark on the axle, and that's ideal. We must have come very close, but you can see at the back of the, just there, if I can get it in the light, that's the split, and we just came through there. So look, that's good, that's all we need to do. So now we put the big puller plate down over the top of this, so I'll go and grab that, and this is a plate I made ages ago. I think there's an early video on it even. I think I made it for a TE20 to start with. Look, all we need to do is run around with half a dozen bolts. I'll do that part, then we'll come back. And with the bloody miracle of modern video, the bolts are all in and tight. Okay, so now from here, I'll take it across to the press, we'll press this out and we'll go from there. Right, we have it in the 50-ton press here. Now, in the old days, in the book, when you have a look at the TE20 book and all that sort of thing, they used to just have a puller, and the puller would go on top of the, it would bolt to where the axle was, and they had a really fine thread pushed on the end of the axle. So that's another option, but I'll just go and I'll grab the air hose and we'll slide it in. And there we go. I was just hoping I didn't have enough air in there not to have to start the compressor again. So the axle's out, we'll get it up over on the bench and we'll have a look. Okay, we've got it all pressed apart here, and you can see how much it was leaking, see all the build up on the axle here. So she hasn't been doing its job. The bearing here, well, we don't care what nick that's in. We're going to throw it away, and there is marks on it. It still has the original leather seal there as well, so for some reason the seal up here has been leaking, and that's been letting your transmission oil down to this seal here. So we'll take all that out and clean it up. Now, as I said before, once you get the bearing out, grind the outside of one right down. And see, I can barely see the writing there. And the idea of grinding the outside of the bearing down is that when you want to see how this bearing sits down into the housing there, well, you won't be able to get a flat disc or anything like that down into the hole. So by grinding the outer of a bearing down, look, it's only got to be 20 thou, it hasn't got to be an awful lot. You can still see, I can see some of the writing here. And that will come down, and then you can put that on there and press the bearings in. So at this stage, we'll shift this out of the way a little bit before we send it over to clean it, and we'll pop this seal out. I often do this in the vise, but look, today I'm trying to do everything on the camera setup, on the one camera setup, so we'll see how we go with that. We have the Care Flight helicopter going over the top. Someone hasn't had a good day by the sound of things. Okay, you can hear the Care Flight helicopter in the background. We're near the Bundy Bear airport, so look, all we're going to do is knock out the seal. I might even get it over there in the screen for you. How's that? Spoiling you, really? Bring that around there. I must have bumped it all. So there's the seal. Take note that the lip is to the inside, or the lip's to the oil, like with all seals. And when we look at getting the cone out, or the cup out, I'm sorry, there's a little lip, and you can see the little lip here in the one that I've already pulled apart. Don't hit on that, that just locates the seal. So we just need to come down the side a little bit, and these are normally not hard. A couple of hits each way and out it comes. Bearings like that are always good to have around a press, but in this job I'm actually trying to, you obviously know I've got presses, but you just saw me use one to pull it apart. But pulling it apart, they can be hard to do without a press. The original pullers that had a flange went down there with a bit of pipe and pushed on the end of the axle, and they used to do it in the field. But what I'm going to show you to do here is, once we clean it all up, that you can do it if you pretend this is the jaw in your vise, or the vise jaws, or a couple of bits of steel like this. You can do it on the bench without a lot of tooling. So I'll go and clean everything up, and we'll come back and we'll fit the seal and drop the bearing in. Okay, we've cleaned all the housing and everything up, and just to show you we can do it on the bench here, I'll just get this sitting nice and flat. That's good enough. Now, the bearing goes in with the fat end down, so it goes down like that. So we'll run a little bit of oil around it, a little bit of oil down inside, and look, that just helps it go in a little bit. And the way I do it, I have an old disc I've had here for years. I usually start off with that. That's as far as we can go with that. Now, turn your bearing upside down, your old one that you've ground a little bit thinner on the outside edge. And try and keep it all going in as straight as you can anyway. You can hear that change note then, and without the seal we can look around the back here and make sure that it went right down to that lip, which it has done. So now we can tidy this up a bit, give it a wipe out. turn him over the other way. And this is the seal that goes on the outer. Now, look, you can put a bit of grease in here, but oh, I don't know, one of those things. It's got enough oil in the seal and all that sort of thing to last it for a start, I believe. But anyway, whatever you like to do there. And then get something nice and flat. It doesn't have to be round, it can be a nice bit of flat steel of some sort. And you can feel that's just below the level probably. But the important thing is that it's even, and we can look in around the bottom there and see it's all the way right up against the little shoulder there. So look, if you want to put a little bit of goo in there, look, just go for it. It's one of those things, if it's not going to do any good, can it do any harm? No, it can't. So we'll just move these aside and bring the axle in. Now these leather seals, even though they're the best in the business I believe, they can be a pain to get in. Now, to try and get them in, you can only get them so far and the leather gets in the road. And that leather is really tight. So what I do, I have a screwdriver that's flat on one side and there's a radius on the other. No sharp edges on this back edge here. So I put the radius edge around to where the leather is getting in the road and I just push it back a bit. And constantly keep a little bit of pressure, but just work around and you're just helping the leather over that edge. This can be a bit of a fiddle, but look, they are the best seal. It's worth the muck around. Some seals you can buy from different companies and you can just about push them straight on, but I choose this because of the leather. I just like it. So. Takes a bit of doing, but I'm putting a fair bit of pressure there. Now I'll come around the back here and do the same. No, I've missed it. Okay. Oh, get on there, let's go again. Find where the leather's sticking over. Make sure you're using the round edge so you don't damage the seal. There we go. We'll give that a bit of a clean. Geez, there's just a bit of junk in that rag. I'll just drop there. Better get it out. There it is. Okay. Time to heat the bearing and get it on and heat the collar. I'll be back in a little while. I want to do the other one as well. I'm going to do a run of 4 when I go, but I'll only film one of the 6-speed and one of the multi-power each way. Well, we're all set up here. I have the axle off the 6-speed and the axle off the multi-power. Now, this little section of the video we'll put on both both playlists. But over here I have a Sunbeam deep fryer. It's a chip cooker, and in the basket here I have a couple of bearings sitting there, and I find on this particular one I turn it flat out and there's a little indicator light down there, and once it cycles on and off a few times, and I usually let it go 3 times, I know that if the bearings went in there originally, they should be plenty hot enough. That has just clicked out now, so what we should be able to do is grab a bearing, bring it down over the top here, I'm going to let that bloke cook a bit more. I think it may be catching just on these little dags here, so I'll just make sure it's plenty hot enough. And we always need to have a punch and a hammer ready just to make sure, so I'll just let that cycle once more just so I know I've got plenty of heat in there now I've had it out. But normally they'll just drop over, but on this one here, I don't know, it feels okay, but perhaps I have a little high spot and I might have to just tap it down. Just tap it right home. So we'll just wait a second until it cycles once more and we know everything's right up on top temperature. You can see the oil stirring around. I have the basket to keep it up off the bottom, so it's just the oil transferring the heat. Now I just use transmission oil in there, whatever oil you like to choose, it just doesn't matter. The oil's just a medium to transfer the heat. There we go. So I'll see. That's there we go. Once it got past the burr, it was okay. So that tells me on this 6-speed where those welds are, it's slightly higher somewhere. So I'll have to keep that in mind. Okay, on the Multipower, we'll let it cycle again. Whoop, might help if I turn the bearing up the right way. Need to turn them over like that again. And I'll just wait until the light goes out, and it's just gone out now. So we know we're right up on full heat. This bearing here, there we go. That's how it should go. Job done. Okay, we'll let those two cool down now, and we'll get ready to grab the heat, or grab the shrink collars. Now the collars are here. And now we have to get these red hot, and we use an oxyacetylene torch for that, and we let that drop down over here, and that locks the bearing in place, so no need to weld like this one. and get my multi grips, I think. Okay, and there we go. That's right down. So that's it. That's all we need to do here. The axle is done. Now, before we put the seal in the trumpet housing, like I said earlier, we'll set the end play on the axle, but that'll be in another video. And because there is an oil seal here and an oil seal down inside there, the heat won't transfer. The heat from the shaft here doesn't transfer down and damage the sealing anyway. But what I do from here is I fill that cavity with a good quality grease, and I do see people put a grease nipple, put a grease track in through here, and when they do, it sort of comes in through here and it ends up in this cavity, but there's no real need to do that because you have trapped grease, put plenty in, and you're not going to need to play anymore. It'll just it'll be trapped in there, and a good quality grease is not going to burn out or anything like that. As far as a mechanical item goes, this is a slow turning mechanical item, so we'll get this back ready to go. I'll wrap it up in a rag once it cools down, and we'll wrap it up, fill it up with grease, and that'll be ready to go in. So I've got a couple more to do. I better get into it.